welcome to my pod, Kizzy. Make sure you have your wine, your tea, your juice, your hen, whatever it is that you need to sit back, relax, and chill with me. So, first, I want to say thank you for joining me today. But if you have not watched episode 3, I need for you to pause this, go back, look at that, and then come back. But if you haven't watched episode 3, 2, or 1, or my intro, come on now. Go back, watch all those, and then come back to this one. So today is episode 4. Can you guys believe this? Episode 4? Like, we in here. We are in here. And today is going to be an amazing topic with an amazing co-host. So, just to tell you about today, what we're going to be talking about. Wait, before I get into this, y'all know I'm improv. Y'all know all this is no script. So I forgot to say, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Because I need y'all to be updated on when I'm about to drop a pod, Kizzy. All right? Alrighty, so let's get into the topic. So today is going to be a very close to home. It's going to be a very sensitive topic that I haven't really spoken about much. So, again, and I already feel like I'm getting a little emotional, y'all. What is this? So, in 2012, I was diagnosed with the autoimmune disease, which is called Wagner's. It goes by a different name now, but my co-host's gonna let y'all know all the good details and everything. But back then, it was called Wagner's. So I was diagnosed with that. It was a very long process, okay? It started off with them thinking I had the flu, pneumonia, everything, okay? So I was hospitalized. It was senior year. I was hospitalized, and for like 30 days, you'll get more details in a little bit. But it even got to the point where they thought that I wasn't going to make it, right? So I'm going to talk about it more deeply. I just wanted to give a little heads up. So this topic is going to be about healthcare, about the healthcare system for people of color. And it's also going to tell you a little history about me, how I dealt with sickness and how I overcame sickness and how I'm here today, because if you go back to 10 years ago, or like 10 years, almost 11 years ago, they didn't think that I would make it. And I'm here today, so it was definitely a challenge. But, with God, with family, and with my resilience, I was able to push through. So with that being said, I am going to introduce my co-host today, who is very close to my heart. So I need for you guys to give them a drum roll. Come on in. And it's my mama. So if you know me, then you know my mom. If you don't know my mom, this is Linda. This is Joy's mama.
Joy's mom.
But she also goes by Linda and Lenny. That's my nickname for her. She don't like it. But that's what I call her. So she's joining me today because she, as a parent, she had to experience this, and I really believe that it's going to be an amazing perspective, an amazing point of view for you all to hear, how was that experience dealing with your child being so sick and not knowing if they were going to make it or not. So, y'all know, this is my mama first time being in front of the camera, but she's going to do great because all this comes from her heart. So I'm just going to be asking her a few questions so that she could just share her experience as a mom with you all, and we'll just be having a discussion. Alrighty,
Okay.
So the first thing, Mom, that I want to say is thanks for being here. I know this might not be easy, that this might be a little sensitive, but thank you for being here. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about. Oh, hold on, y'all. Happy Black History Month. Y'all, I forgot to say that. How could I forget to say that? is Black History. Even
It
though
sure
we
is.
need, we need more than a month. But, I got my little shirt on. It says Black Woman Doctor. So I'm representing, my people, women, all people of color today, and all my Black people. So I just wanted to say that. So again, back to it. So the
Mm-hmm.
first thing, Mom, that I want to ask you is, how was this experience for you? Like, from, I guess, start to finish, just talk about how was this for you emotionally.
Oh, emotionally. Um, it was definitely one of the most difficult things I had to ever experience, especially as a parent. Um, to see your child go from essentially perfectly healthy to rather you gonna live or die, that you don't know. And you know being a healthcare professional, you know sometimes that can be like a blessing, or it could be a curse. It could be bad, because it's like everything someone's saying to me, I'm like, you know I'm understanding it. So, when they're telling me things, I already know, So that part was made it, I think, even more difficult for me, because I did understand what was going on, and definitely a challenge, and you know definitely a challenge for someone who has no healthcare experience, no knowledge. Um, and I work with the healthcare system, so that helped me to be able to, be resourceful and know what I was entitled to, know what you were entitled to, um, and know how to get it. Because that's a lot of the problems with healthcare. People don't know what they're entitled to. They don't know how to get what they're entitled to, and a lot of times we're afraid to speak out. We're afraid to, you know, tell doctors how we're really feeling.
Oh, yeah.
So, and as people of color, sometimes um, we're not um, accepted with how we express what's happening with us. So, at face value. So, um, our health care system has a lot of things that they need to improve on. We're getting there, but we're not there yet. But definitely, as a parent watching your child sick, um, it can be very challenging. It's very difficult, um, and especially I don't know how someone who don't have a circle of friends and families um, can do it. Because if I did not have my family and my friends, um, I think it would have been a totally different experience for me.
Yeah, yeah. And so tell the people what you do, because you said you're in the healthcare system. So tell them what you do.
I'm a registered nurse. I work for the Agency for Healthcare Administration for over 25 years. And I've had several titles along the way. But currently, I work with people that have services through the state of Florida. And when they get denied services, I set on an administrative hearing representing the state.
Okay, so y'all, we professionals over here, ain't we, huh? She a professional, but so being a registered nurse and understanding what the doctors are telling you, because listen, y'all, like, this was serious. When I'm telling you, I was healthy, yeah, I was chubby and all, but I never had any prior health issues. I, was never sickly, rarely got sick. So this escalated fast. There was one summer 2011, I started, having some gum issues, some gum swelling and some sinus issues. So I went to the dentist one day and they said, "Oh, you have gingivitis." And we were like, "What?" Like, she just came 6 months ago. How could she have gingivitis, right? So They did some surgery on my gums, and after that, rapid. It was like fever, sickness, boom. Right. So my mom took me to the doctor. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Actually, yeah, it was about the summer of 2011 when we first started with symptoms. Like Joy said, she started with the gum issue. Um, Really, she had not complained out loud to me about the gums. She went to the dentist for her regular cleaning, and they diagnosed her with gingivitis, which I thought was kind of suspicious because she had never, ever had any type of issues with her teeth, her gum. Joy has never even had a cavity.
Listen, y'all see these teeth?
Never had a cavity. So I was just very surprised at that. And I want to say maybe we started in June, probably at the end of that school year. And then here we are. She gets the procedure done, and rapidly we start with symptoms. And we didn't relate those two things because she started with the fevers. Of course, we thought it was flu at first because it was symptoms like flu, fever, fatigue, weakness. Okay, so we stayed home, tried to treat it with over-the-counter medications. That didn't work. So off to the pediatrician we went. They were like, okay, she got flu, bad case of flu. They gave her some medications. Oh my God, she got sicker. Um, we back to the doctor again. We went back and forth to the doctor for about 3-4 months. And I'll never forget the last time we went to the doctor, we had been there like that week before. When we went this time, Joy had lost over 10 pounds in less than 7 days. Her eyes were sunken. She was running high fevers at night, sweats, hallucinating. So when I took her to the doctor this day, her pediatrician was like, this is not flu. Something is wrong, Mrs. Latson. And this is exactly what he told me. He said, I want you to take her to, it was Miami Children's Hospital then, I think it's Nicholas or something.
Nicholas Claus or something.
Yeah, Nicholas Hospital now. He said, I want you, and his office was in Aventura. So he said, I want you to take her when you leave here. Do not stop for gas. Do not stop for food. Do not go by your house to get clothes. He said, I have already called. They're waiting for you. So I'm like, okay. I proceeded to do that. We got in a car. We drove straight to Miami Children's with my daughter driving me crazy because she was starving.
I get hangry.
Oh,
okay?
my God. And she was like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, Joy, we cannot stop. We get there. It just went so quickly. We get to the emergency room. They were waiting for us. They put Joy in the back. They just started working on her, putting IVs. It was just, it's like you go from, healthy to this. And it's traumatic. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. So we get there. They're working on Joy. They're running tests, fever. She's with that fever. So we are admitted. She's still complaining. I'm hungry. But they were like, we can't feed you because we don't know what type of test we're going to have to run on you. We get on the floor. First couple of nights, same thing. High fevers, 106, 107. Sweat, like clothes, bed sheets, wringing wet. I would have to change them 2 or 3 times during the night. That went on for a week. Getting sicker. She couldn't even go to the bathroom. She couldn't wash herself. And they still, no diagnosis. This is the first week, no diagnosis. So they're telling me they thought it was pneumonia. And I'm talking to the doctor, and he's like, she's not responding to medication. She's still with the fever. She's still sick. So he was like, and I'll never forget that doctor. We call him Dr. PJ.
Mm-hmm.
He was a black Hispanic doctor. And he said, Miss Latson, I'm going to find out what's wrong with your child.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, from the first day she went in the hospital, I bought a tablet. I wrote everything down. And parents, if you have a sick child, everything has to be written. Dates, times, what was her temperature. Every time they took it, I wrote it down. Her blood pressure, every time they took it, put it down. Every doctor that spoke to her, touched her, came in that room, I wrote their name down. Every medication that was hung, every medication that was given to her, I wrote it down. If she had a reaction to medications, which she did, I wrote it down. And that's what you have to do. You have to be on top of everything, everything. So whenever the doctors came in, I was able to give them all this information.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, Miss Lasson, wow, because I was like, she had that as that time. She still has a fever, It's difficult, but I think that helped with her diagnosis. First week, no diagnosis, no response to any medications. Going into the second week, the doctor showed me her chest x-rays. And he said, Miss Latson, this is not pneumonia. He showed me Joy's chest x-ray, and he showed me a person with pneumonia's x-ray. And he asked me, do they look the same? I said, no. He said, okay, I'm going to call in another doctor, a surgeon. He said, we're going to take Joy and we're going to do a biopsy of her lung. And when she gets out of surgery, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to give her a loading dose of steroids. He said, if she responds to that, then this is what we probably think it is. It's some type of autoimmune thing. So, of course, I said, okay, she's in your hands. They came in on a Sunday and did Joy's biopsy. Mm-hmm. They took her to recovery. They gave her a loading dose. I'll never forget that day of steroids. When I went into the room after she had the procedure, for the first time in 10 days, my child was smiling. She had not smiled the whole time. So that was exactly what she needed, steroids. The diagnosis at that time was Wagner's. They no longer call it Wagner's. I've been reading about it. They call it now GP, granulomatosis angiitis. And what it does is it is a necrotizing type of vascular disease that affects mostly respiratory, the upper respiratory tracts, your sinuses, your nose, your ears, and your lungs. And in Joy's case, she had a severe case of the sinuses and her nose. Thank God it didn't severely affect her lungs, her lungs. But her nose, yeah, she had the nosebleeds. She had the granulomatosis coming, necrotic stuff coming out of her nose. And we had to, post hospitalization, we had to treat that with surgeries because sometimes she would get a nosebleed and it would stop. So that was part of her autoimmune disease that she has. We spent a total of 24 days in the hospital that time, with her having ups and downs. For the first 10 days with no improvement. On that 11th day, improvement, improvement, improvement. And following that hospitalization, we had 4 weeks of IV therapy and with doctor's visits. So this didn't just end. This went on for well over a year with treatments, and what I can say is that I have very supportive friends, very supportive family, and it is so important when someone has a sick child that their support system tightens up and support them. If you're married, spouses, don't allow the one parent to become the total caretaker of the sick child. We need both of you to be there for that child, um, and you need to draw strength from each other. Unfortunately, a lot of marriages don't last through a child with a chronic or illness or sick a sickness. They don't make it through that, but it doesn't have to be that way. Um, my village, my friends, they really came through. My job was very supportive. My job was so flexible with me. They allowed me to work at home. I mean, even though I wasn't going home, I was sleeping in the hospital uh, with Joy. So I spent 24 days in the hospital too with her.
She did.
And we went home for a week, and we went back for another week. So we spent a total of over a month, 31 days, in and out of the hospital. So what I can tell you is you can get through it. And it's a challenge. It's difficult because no parent ever imagines seeing your child sick and not being able to make them better and not being able to really, you feel helpless. And I think that's a lot of what parents feel when they have a sick child, helpless, because there's nothing that you can do that makes your child feel better. Being there, yes, holding them, but you just feel helpless. But I'm so grateful for the physicians, the nurses. They provided excellent care for my daughter. Um, they were appreciative of, me and how I kept up with all the information about her. And I always had it with me. So if they had a question, I was able to get it. I didn't remember everything, but I wrote everything down. So I was able to get that. And that's something, don't rely on your memory. Write everything down. I tell everybody that. Write it down. Because you're totally stressed, you're not sleeping, you're not going to remember. But if you write it down, yes, and I was trained as a nurse. If it ain't written down, it ain't documented, it ain't done. So I think that was indwelled in my head. And that was an important part for me in being there for my daughter when she was, I had to be there for her because she couldn't do it herself. She couldn't even answer questions some days. She didn't have enough strength to even sit up in the bed.
It was real.
And, she was a child and she was afraid and she didn't understand, questions that they would have. Because sometimes I would leave the hospital to go do some things to come back, and she would call me overwhelmed because she's saying, they say I have cancer. They say, and I'm like, okay, I'm coming back. I'll have to go back to the hospital because I would have to console her because I'm like, they didn't say you had cancer, Joy. They said they're trying to rule out cancer.
Right. And I think that, just to piggyback on that, it's when you're a child or when you're anybody, any
Mm-hmm.
individual. And, doctors, listen, when I say we're coming in and out of that room all day long, like my case is so rare that doctors were like, it would be like 15 of them in my room. Like everyone wanted on my case because it was so rare. So and I'm already hallucinating, because I had the fever for already months at that
Mm-hmm.
point. So thank God I didn't have brain damage, right?
Yes.
So, doctors were coming in. It was a lot of people. So you'll hear them saying, okay, cancer this, cancer that. So it was scary because at this point I was not eating.
Mm-hmm.
I lost like 100 pounds in these months that I was there and sick. I couldn't drink anything. I couldn't, like she said, I couldn't walk at all. Like I did not walk at all. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't talk on the phone. Like, this was serious. So now what I want to ask you too, because a lot, when I talk about this, which is very rare, people ask me like, did you ever think that you were going to die? It probably crossed my mind a few times, but I think I was so sick that I didn't think of anything. Like, that's why it was so
Mm-hmm.
important that my mom had to advocate for me at that time because I couldn't do it for myself. So what I wanted to ask you was there a point in time when the doctors couldn't find any answers,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't find any solutions that you thought, did they ever kind of tell you like this is something you should prepare for? Or, what did it, how did it hit you when you thought like maybe my child could die?
Um, to be honest, the doctors never said that they thought you were not gonna make it through this. Um, they were like, because for the longest they didn't know what it was, so they were like, "It's serious. It's something out of the ordinary," because Wagner's affects usually 40 to people in their 40s to 50s. First of all, mostly white people. Um, Definitely not a teenager. So that's why this diagnosis was so hard to make in Joy's case, um, because she didn't fit, you know, that she didn't fit the description of what generally a person with that disease looks like. Um, but yes, it definitely crossed my mind that my child's gonna die. Because, I'm thinking, how long can you go with 106 temps with no, resolution? No, how long can she live, survive? So, yes, I was very concerned about it, and that's when, you know, your faith has to come in if you're a person of faith. And I am a person of faith. A lot of times I would have to leave the room because, sometimes, when I wanted to cry, but I think that when you have somebody that's so sick, you, I think you kind of have to be a little strong. People might not understand that. I can't be crying while she's so sick and then she's thinking she's going to die. And especially a child with their parent. If they see you so upset and crying all the time, then they're gonna say, "Oh my God," So I did, I would try my best not to cry in front of her. Not to say that I didn't cry, because yeah, I cried a lot, but I tried not to. I tried to be strong for her because she did need that because she was very sick, um, very sick.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because I would feel so bad because my mom was doing this, like, she had her support system, but like she was the only one there, like morning and day, morning and night, morning and night, she was there by herself. So, like, she had to change my clothes, she had to change my sheets. So I felt bad, as a child, you feel so bad seeing your parent doing that when they're tired. She had to sit on a raggedy sofa, she had to sleep on, so I felt so bad that I would be apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you have to do this. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure, was that hard for you to hear?
It was because I didn't want her to feel that way because, um, I'm your mom. This is my job. Um, Mom's job is, you know, it's with good time. It's like a marriage. It's for the good, for the bad, the ugly. You know, we're still mom, and we have to be there for our children. It ain't easy, but yeah, it was tough when she would be like, "Mom, I'm so sorry," and I'm like, "But you can't help it. You're sick."
Yeah. She really did say that all the time. And I give her so many props because I look back now to that and I just give her so many applauds because I think that if Parker, my child, was in that situation, like I know, God gives you the strength, you'll be able to handle it when you're in it. Because everybody says that won't be me. I'm sure my mom never thought that was gonna be her because,
Mm-mm.
like she said, this was a journey. Like this process, I didn't get in remission until 2016, going on 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in that process for like 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a journey. This wasn't just in and out. It took me years to overcome this sickness. So I think that if I was in her position, the pain and the hurt that must put you through. So I definitely applaud you for that. And as for me experiencing that, it wasn't easy. I had to be homeschooled for that
Yes.
year. Like my mom would have to pick up my homework and assignments and
Mm-hmm.
drop it off. Like it was a hard time. I had to be away from school, from people. Rumors were going around. People were saying all types of
Yes.
things, saying that I died or that I had HIV or AIDS, which
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. But that's what assumptions and rumors
Mm-hmm.
does with the unknown. Instead of people asking me, people were making up stories, which made me so sad. Like, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Because Joy did lose a lot of weight. She was so weak, and people didn't know what was going on. Excuse me. So they assumed what was going on, and there go rumors. Oh, Joy has AIDS. Joy has. Nobody bothered to ask Joy. You know, Joy, what's wrong? You know, so yeah, and that's the other part of having a sick child too, or having a sick person that you're caring for, is that you know, yeah, that happens. And another thing that I think happens when you have a sick child like that, you kind of get so close to that child that it's hard to let that child go because you become overprotective. And I know I was guilty of that. Me and my mom, my mom was worse than me, but it was like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't go there. You know, so it was like, but she's a young person. You gotta cut her loose. You can't make her feel like she's a sick person. And can't do things. So you have to work through that as a parent. And I think that that's something we didn't really talk about that much, but it's hard because it's like she became my baby, and then you gotta let your baby go because your baby's not a baby. Your baby's a young lady. So she had a life and friends, and want to hang out, and I'm like, oh God, she's gonna get sick, or she gonna, they're not gonna know what to do, So those are things you have to work through, getting back to normal
Yeah,
from
getting.
being sick. Yeah.
That's so true. That's why I thought it was so important to have a parent share their perspective on it because I saw it different from her. When I wanted to go out, I want to go out. Shoot, I want to do things. I'm just an adult now. I want to party. I want to go with people. And my mom didn't want me to go away to college. They probably thought I was gonna die or something or get sick. Which is completely natural. But I think that it's so important for parents to to inform your children on these things. Because when I went back to school, I remember one time I coughed. Listen, and these was 11 years ago, before COVID, okay? I went back to school and I coughed one time. I was like, and the kid in front of me was like, "Oh my God, you're gonna get me sick. Don't cough on me. I don't want what you have." And I was like, that people disrespectful. That's why it's so important to inform your children, how to treat a person who is sick, who's coming back into society and the community, because that affected me. I would tell my mom I'll go home crying every day, because I had to take the elevator. I couldn't walk up the stairs. I had to, like be on disability or whatever, it was at the time. And because people didn't understand, I felt that people whispered or people assumed and just made up things, and people no longer saw me as human or as Joy first. They always saw me as sick Joy, which was a huge change for me because that was my last year of high school, So the last thing that I want for you to share is, as a mom and as a healthcare worker, what advice can you give to someone who's either going through this, went through this, or may experience this?
My best advice is that, going through this, reach out, ask for help. I think that's something we don't do. Reach out, ask for help, make yourself knowledgeable about whatever your child has or whatever symptoms your child has or whatever your child is or whomever you're taking care of or whomever is sick. Educate yourself on it and write everything down. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions. Tell the doctors, the nurses, how you're really feeling. Have your child tell them how they are feeling. And when your child tells them how they're feeling, you back your child up and say, my child says she's feeling this way. Because a lot of times people don't take children, especially, serious. You as a parent, you got to be an advocate for your child no matter what. You know, find out about what things that services the hospital offers. I was I didn't even know about a lot of the things that were offered at that hospital. But especially children's hospitals have a lot of services and things that they offer for parents to make that an easier experience. Find out, ask questions. I think that's the most important thing. Ask questions. Find out what you're entitled to. Communicate with your insurance carrier. Get a case manager. Find out what you're entitled to get and get it. If you have to fight for it, it's always appeals. Fight for it. I don't mind going through the appeal process with the insurance for a service for my child. If your child needs treatment, you contact that insurance and you can get that treatment for that child. Because my child had to have treatments for years, off and on, until she, got into remission. And, thank God she's a healthy, happy, mother and, doctor now. So, my, you can do it too. If you're a person that's sick right now or you have a sick child, this is what can happen.
Yes, and that's what advocating for your child in this healthcare looks like. Because there was times we had to cancel, our insurance was messed up, doctors didn't want to see me any longer in the midst of my treatment, but she advocated for me. She stayed by my side. She supported me through this process, and that's why I'm here today. Because if she didn't ask questions, if she didn't write things down, if she didn't speak up for me and tell doctors what she knew about me, maybe I wouldn't be here today. Who knows? But like she said, now I'm here. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a doctor, you know. And now this story, I'm hoping, can help many other people who have experienced this, are experiencing this, or may experience this, is to not give up. Because you too can make it.
Yeah.
This, what I went through then, does not determine who did not determine who I became, because I beat it with resiliency, with treatment, with healthcare, with my support. I overcame those challenges. Was it difficult? Yeah, believe me. We just lightly covered everything and that happened. But, with the right support and with individuals who support you and don't give up on you, you too can make it.
Yes,
And,
definitely.
I want to say thank you, Mom, for sharing this, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't easy for you to share this. Listen, I don't talk about this. So this is me being real with you guys and sharing a piece of me, because this is hard to talk about. I was getting a little emotional. You feel me? So, but I hope that my story can help others know that you too can achieve anything that you put your mind to, even at a point when others think that you may not make it.
Exactly.
So again, thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Mom. She'll be back in the future, y'all. Show Mama Joy some love. And I just want to say, I hope you had your wine, your Hennyhen, your water, your tea, whatever it is, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion with us today. And I hope to see you for the next episode. So happy Black History Month. And, I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. So thank you, mamas. All right, guys. See you soon.